We have brother Santi who's going to talk about this beautiful topic on words create worlds. And honestly, Santi Bai doesn't need an introduction. He's a part of the LA family, and we've had the fortune to have him for so many workshops. And of course, his specialty is his creativity, which we're about to see in this workshop. So, a warm welcome to you, Brother Santi, and over to you. Thank you. Shanti.
Shanti, everyone. Thank you for joining, and um, and thank you, sister, for the wonderful introduction. Um, as most of you know, I like to just focus on the session so that we don't get distracted with our each other's visuals and whatnot. So we just really focus on the learning and the expansion that occurs when we just really clearly listen and we experience something in a very powerful way. So before we start, I want to just take a moment, 1 minute of silence so that we can really collect ourselves and come into the space and so that we can be fully present. And before we do that, I want to encourage everybody who is on to gather up some paper and a pencil or a pen so that you can actually write down, because we're going to do some exercises during this session. So before you do that, I'll give you, does everybody have a pencil and paper to write with? Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can. Yeah, we do that.
Okay, great. So then let's just start with that minute of silence to come into ourselves and be fully present and really focus on that consciousness of I am. So today's session is focusing on words and how these words that we use sometimes in a very lazy way, sometimes in a very powerful way, sometimes it carries all these different dimensions. Words are powerful ways of communicating not only our own state, but also the way we envision and see and experience. And so they become very important in the way we communicate, not only to ourselves, but also with others. So words create worlds. Can anyone explain to me what that sort of brings up? Words create worlds. How does that kind of create in your mind? How does that call your imagination? Because one of the interesting things about words is that on one level, it's the person who is uttering the words or is writing the words. And on the other side, the receptive side, the receiver side, you are receiving the words, and there's something very special that's happening. So one is giving the word and the other one is receiving. And how the word is received has a lot to do with the kind of world that is created. So we're going to explore the dimensions of both being the ones who are creating and also delivering, and then those of us who are receiving in the active space of receiving something, and then how are we creating with that? How are we creating with the way we receive? And even before we receive, what state of consciousness are we in? So words create worlds. Did anybody want to add anything? So what are words? Do you often think about words and how they came about and what are they useful for? How am I using them? So what are words? Can anyone give me their own experience of what words are? What are words?
The thing we speaks,
Can you repeat that again, please?
the thing that we speak, is each word, and that comes, and words creates worlds, and before word it is the way we perceive and then process, and then words is the next. So it's come as a language, as to communicate to the outer world, but before it comes to outer world, it process inside. So the one that we already process inside, that comes out in the world, is through words. Yeah.
Through words, right? So words. So the way I'm listening and receiving that is that words are what we basically offer the world in order for them to understand what's inside of us. Is that correct?
Yes, brother.
Yeah. So words, but even before that, words exist, right? So even before we actually put it out, the words exist in a way inside of us. And we're going to explore how the different forms that words can actually take, because words also, you said something that is spoken, right? But words also, it is written, that takes on a physical form, right?
Yes.
So there's many different dimensions of words. Words are written, words are spoken, words are sung, and when somebody sings the word, it has a completely different power. So words have many different forms. They come in different dimensions.
So same word can have different dimensions.
Yeah, same word has different dimensions, not only in the way we are using it, utilizing it to communicate, but also the way we are creating with it from the other side in terms of the one who's listening to it. So they're very interesting because they're very tricky words. Words can trick our mind to think something that is possibly not real, or create a world that we get so engrossed into, becomes so embedded in, that we no longer see anything outside of that world, right? So we become engrossed, we become, it's the only thing we can see. Words have a way of closing our mind and then also opening our mind, closing our heart and opening our heart. So these things that we use, sometimes very carelessly, have great power. Have you recently used words in a way that created an unexpected reaction? Anyone? Have you used words in a way that it created an unexpected reaction? You said, huh? What happened here? Anyone?
I have.
Yeah? Can you share that?
Yes. For example, when I see my patients, when they come in, they usually are a little bit fearful of what's the situation that is going on right now in the world.
Uh-huh.
And when they ask me, how are you? How are you doing? And I always say, I am fantastic. I feel great. And they look at me in shock, like, you are? And then they kind of laugh and they said, oh my God, that is such a great way to greet somebody. I said, yeah, we're here, we're breathing, and look at us, we're interacting. So I feel fantastic. So I do get a reaction, but I do try to always answer in a positive way, always with enthusiasm, so patients could feel it. But if I'm saying, oh my God, I'm so tired, I feel this, I feel that, then you're sending that energy. So that's my experience with the word.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I
Word.
wanted to say, can I say something?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, hi, this is Susan. I've texted when I find that texting words can get you in trouble with the person and the other, the receiver of it is misinterpreting by just throwing, it could be thrown off just one word. And I can't remember it's been a couple instances and I had to go back and talk to the person on the phone and give her my interpretation. Then she understood it. So it can get you, you know, it can be very harmful too, even though you think you're saying something correct to a person and you're not trying to hurt the person, and they can take it totally different.
Yeah, words when they're written, actually, especially now that we actually are using words in the written form on a daily basis, sometimes on a moment-to-moment basis, they can play a lot of tricks on our imagination, and it's because the way we receive it, right? So words have this power that ignites the imagination, that ignites a sense of reality. So it's not just a passive thing that's occurring. When we use words, creation is occurring. We are creating in the mind, we're creating in the heart, we are creating in the physical, in the sense of doing, the physicality of it. So it has these different dimensions of how it actually creates communication, but also breaks communication, right? Anyone else? And especially right now, when words are actually, when we write something, and especially on the phone or where we're using, using notes to write back and forth in terms of emails, and we have this thing called autocorrect. Now this computer is actually correcting your words, right? And we sometimes don't even notice that the word has been shifted. So automatically the meaning of this sequence of words that we've strung together become something completely different. And they can cause problems. So words can create, so they're kind of like the building blocks of our communication, right? Words are literally the building blocks, just like bricks or like mortar is part of building a home. And so these are the components that actually cause us to create understanding between us. And so we have to use them with respect, right? We have to respect these words. We have to use them with care. So when you're constructing something, you want to make it perfectly aligned. You want to create this sense of structure that's going to be strong and stable. So words, when we actually use them, they have to reflect a certain sense of stability, a certain sense of flexibility as well. But the intention behind words becomes very important. So words. Anyone else to add? How many of you actually have given the thought, oh, words, what are words for me? You know, how can I best use them? How can I best put them to use in communicating? Anyone? Have you had that sense of reflection about words, giving them that sense of importance? Because we use them all the time. Anyone?
Yes.
Can you give me an example of how what's been your contemplation in your relationship with words?
One of my friends is a psychiatrist, and he told me a saying that's always resonated with me. He said that words create neuroplastic change.
Yeah.
And after he said that, I realized the power of my words and how my choice of words can impact other people, their thoughts about themselves, relationships with themselves, and the world around them. And that was pretty powerful for me.
Yeah. Yeah, taking time to actually contemplate, to actually, understand that when I am actually communicating with these tools, these words, that there's a certain sense of care, of thoughtfulness, mindfulness that actually, when it's actually implemented, it's integrated into the way I bring these words together, then they become powerful tools to ignite and to also create something that's going to create stability and also going to empower. So the intention, the structure of the words, how I'm sequencing them, how I'm actually understanding them, how I'm using them. Why am I using this word as opposed to another? What's the intention? How am I proposing a cause and effect with the use of certain words, right? So understanding that each word has a cause and effect. It's like a domino effect. If I put this word, it's gonna cause this. This is what's gonna happen if I use this word. And sometimes I think, how many have you thought of a word and then said, oh no, they did this to me and therefore I'm going to replace that with this? Anyone?
Yes, many times.
Yeah.
Yeah, even when writing emails, like now in practice to go through twice or thrice at least, and when we go, oh, then we change the word, and we clearly see that, yeah, oh, how can I write this? So this is the better. And the word you said, contemplate. So in these scenarios, like if we have little presence while drafting the communications, we choose the word, sometimes we replace the word. But most of the times when we are in the open communications and we are not so conscious about the word and the choosing about the word and doing little contemplate while speaking. So where is the words flow and we realize later on, oh, what happened? I did not mean that. Or the way I said, I should not have communicated like that. So yes, so this happens a lot. Even in the writing, the communications, or sometimes just open communication.
Yeah, there's a big difference between this automatic sense of speech, right? Where it becomes sort of very, it doesn't even seem like you're present, right? Sometimes you're just watching the words come out, but you don't even feel connected to them. Somehow they seem like they're coming out of a foreign body. And because we're not creating consciously, we're not connecting to what these tools are and how we're using them, that they come out as if they're foreign objects coming out of a different house, different form, not
And
from us.
that happens most of the time. So that is the part in the real life. I think in my perspective, we have to focus. Personally, I like do focus and trying to be more firm on that. When we're speaking, we're taking a step back and giving some mindfulness before speak or before delivering the word. Otherwise, it just flow with our own um, um, impressions that we have already in our subconscious mind. So that's how. So that's a practice that we are trying to, and that's how we are doing the meditations.
Yeah. So there's two things happening with words. One is, am I connected to the word that I'm using? Do I have purpose for it? Am I using it mindfully, consciously? What's my consciousness behind that? So the word is just these things that we've developed through the development of the human capacity to communicate, that we create this thing called language. But words actually represent symbols and dynamics that are universal in many ways, and that help us understand each other as human beings in this experience of being in these human bodies, right? And having the capacity to organize, to work together, to create together. But when communication is functioning and flowing, words are being utilized correctly, so they create abundance, a sense of community, a sense of connection. And when they're not consciously created, what happens is these words almost feel like robotic, cold. So we're gonna go away from that system of processing words, and we're gonna look at what can we do in order to come into a different relationship and also a different speed. So it's important. We sometimes speak so fast, right? And when we're in situations, we're speaking so fast, we're not even thinking. We're not even in the conscious connection of what is coming out, like I just explained. But also, most very importantly, I don't even know, one can't even tell who is doing it, right? So the one thing that we need to do before we even use words is understand where they're coming from. Who's creating this? Is it the situation I find myself that is creating these words to automatically come out? Is it this other person's words that are causing, influencing this dynamic sequence of words that is now literally flooding out of my mouth? So who is present in this dynamic experience of actually using words to communicate? So who is present? Who is creating? Who gives it meaning, right? So meaning is on two levels. Now, have you ever had the situation where the person who's delivering the words, and I think that one of the brothers already sort of gave an example of when you might say something, but it's completely received completely, in a way that obviously shows that real communication didn't occur, right? Because the one who's delivering the words is in one state of mind, and the one who's receiving it is in a different state of mind. And those different states of minds, those different states of consciousness actually create miscommunication. So is it possible for both the receiver and the one who is delivering, the one who is creating, to actually share a certain consciousness that assures for communication to occur consistently? Anyone? Did you understand what I just said, first of all? It's complex. Did everybody understand what I just said?
I did not focus. I was just writing some notes, so I may missed.
Yeah. So my question is, do you think that it is possible for both the receiver of words and also the creator of words, the one who's delivering the words, to share a certain state of consciousness, of self-awareness that allows communication to occur consistently? So who or what creates and gives meaning to words? Anyone? Who or what creates and gives meaning to words?
Well, the person, I was thinking, like I share these words with the other lady that received it, and she was in a different frame of mind. I know that because sometimes she drinks a little bit too much, I know, a lot of the time. So I don't know, her state of mind is like foggy, confused. So I think the person that's sending out those words, like myself, I mean, I could visualize the situation different if I come from my point of view that she might not be able to understand completely what I'm saying because she's in this state of mind. So that's how I look at it, just sending out that good vibration or energy to this person before I send it so that she receives it differently. I mean, that's what I'm getting out of sort of.
Yeah.
What you're trying to communicate, I'm not sure. It's kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, basically, you are describing something that is very important, and it brings up the question here, which is, is it just a matter of sending out words, right? So, and what you just described is, in that sending out words, you have to fill them with power. We speak of filling something with vibration, filling something with power, because they're, instead of just flowing out a sequence of letters that become words and then become sentences and then become thoughts, right? We're sending out vibration. So in what state do we need to be, in what state of awareness do we need to be in order to accomplish that? Does the brain have the capacity to actually send vibration?
Yeah, let me try. Okay. So yeah. So when we speak or when we deliver some message through word, like the question you asked, which state of mind or which consciousness you are delivering, are you present? So most of the time when I being the consciousness, so either I can be this with the soul conscious, that is the truth, or something false identity that feels the intensity, the most of the times the intentions behind that. So sometimes we are not present, we are in the consciousness of our role, or some different, sometimes ego is kind of false identity. So the ego is speaking, not the means. So that communicate the energy with, that goes with as a energy with the word. So if we are in that ego, that's how sometimes later on we realize, when we come back to our own consciousness, oh, how did I deliver this word? I'm not supposed to, or I'm not like this. So that consciousness being in present, the truth that I am, if I am in that spirit, it's very less chance that the word that I'm going to deliver, the spirit is going to deliver, have any different kind of intensity or energy. So that consciousness is, I think, is very important, and that is the source that controls or delivers all the, in the biological terms, to the brain and different parts of the brain, and hormones generates and reacts in the body, and that change our temperament also. Sometimes we get in anger, sometimes we get in upset. So that spirit, being in present with that spirit while we're speaking or communicating, even we're thinking, that's how it comes to the word also. So that consciousness, I think, is important to practice while we are alone, or while we are in the communications, or while we are just even walking also.
Yeah. I'll ask a question now. Thank you for that. How many of you, before you actually started to speak, were aware of yourself? How many of you were aware of who you are before you spoke the words?
Still practicing, but still not.
Yeah.
Still practicing. A lot of to the events I do practice, like before starting any meetings, before having any communication at the home with kids or with the family or in the office. But this is not in very natural yet, that I'm walking somebody, hey, hello, and that's all conscious, and I'm responding with that spirit.
Yeah.
So still practicing, but still very far.
Yeah. So you just said you're very far, right?
Yes.
I think you're closer than you think. So the why I bring up this question is because in this automatic way of us living, a lot of times, we sometimes forget to position ourselves, our self-awareness. So before we even speak, before we even engage, before we even wake up, one of the first things that is valuable in preparation to communicate for your day is to engage the acknowledgement of who you are choosing to be, right? So in this aspect, most people are operating from the sense of this physicality, right? My brain is thinking. How often have you said, my brain is thinking? Anyone? Nobody's ever had the thought, my brain is thinking?
No, not anymore after all this series of the workshop and practicing the Brahma Kumari knowledge. But
Yeah.
yes, before it was, but now it is at least have the sense of understanding or some visual that this is not something else is thinking. It's me. I the responsible of my thought, and it's me who is thinking. Sometimes some mistakes happens, like flow of the word. I take the responsibility. Yes, it's me, and I have to be aware of that, about that. It's not my brain, and it's not because of my wife or my manager. It's about me, that who choose the word.
Yeah.
So that is developing, but yes. So the brain that is kind of processing my instructions, my thought, and ultimately it comes in actions, either by some body language or by the word, or sometimes even more than that.
Yeah. Anyone else would like to add? So when was the last time you said, my brain is thinking, my brain is hurting? Anyone?
Like brother said, now with the knowledge, you are more aware of what your words, and you know that you have a power, you have a power to create your own words, your own thoughts, and your actions. It just doesn't happen. You are the one who is creating. So that awareness we never had before. But after this knowledge, Brahma Kumari knowledge, Rajyoga knowledge, it makes you understand and think before you say something. So you know that you have all the powers. You have control over your senses, nobody else. So you make it happen whatever you want.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very important because the first step is to understand that you, I, the thing that I'm calling I, right? Whatever that may be for you, I, when I say I, understanding what that I is pointing to and what it represents, so that from that space of understanding, you can then work out of. So for some of us, it's I am a spiritual being. And for others, I am a body. And for others, in little moments in time, I am a doctor, I am an attorney, I am a mother, I am a father, I'm a child, I'm a homeless person, I'm a painter, right? And so by understanding where things originate and who is creating this, and understanding what that represents in terms of the world it represents. So what is I? What is the world of I, or I am, if you want to add those two words together, put them together? What does that represent? And by understanding what that represents and what it means and how it holds itself, then when you then bring in words, and then you have that from working out of that center, what happens is that the use of the words is going to become very powerful, right? So understanding what that I represents, what state is it in, what are its tools? So who or what creates and gives meaning to the words? So who is it? Who is it?
I the spirit,
I, the soul.
I the soul.
Okay. Yeah. Who is it for all of you? Anyone else? How are you perceiving
I,
yourself?
the creator.
I, the creator, yeah.
I, the liberated being, the liberated self.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's important for us to, when we are preparing ourselves to utilize words, is to understand who's speaking, who's about to use these words, and then the intention. Why am I using these words? Right? So, but to start always from being clear of who is creating the word and who is using the word, so that the world that the world that manifests around those words that you ultimately use is a world that you understand and also relate to in a beautiful way, right? And one that is constructed with care so that it doesn't fall apart, and one that actually allows for something to occur in a positive, constructive way. So that first step of really understanding who, right? So we kind of went through this experience, and now and the responsibility of the words, right? And one of the brothers also pointed out to this. It's like when we think of words, you know, it's like I've been doing a lot of writing and using words in a very interesting way, where I have to construct imagery and construct speech, and construct a sense of world and reality, and in a time, in a space where it's the parameters of time, the parameters of landscape. So all these things I have to take into consideration. So the way I'm using these words becomes very, again, they're just like bricks building a house. And so I have to really understand the variety of words, the way they affect, so the effect that they have, right? And then when I begin to sequence them together. So one of the things that I've been doing is cultivating a vocabulary. Cultivating a vocabulary that represents that space of understanding of I am, right? So that it's connected to that sensation of reality. It's connected to that identity that I say I am. So it's very important. It's no longer being influenced by, as some of you have already mentioned, these different aspects that are always in action in our reality. So what kind of vocabulary are you cultivating when you think of yourself? And when you actually get into that space, do you understand what's influencing you? What's influencing your definition of a word? Does the same word have the same meaning for everyone? Is it universal?
No.
What happens? Why, if we as a society decide sunshine means the rays of the sun, will the sunshine mean the same thing for everyone? Why doesn't it mean the same thing? What's causing that friction?
So, yeah, I'll try to answer this, brother.
Okay.
I had this question on the same note. I was thinking to ask. So, like you give an example of the sun sign. So it's universal truth, right? The same way, if we are in the state of the self-consciousness, the spirit that I am, is exactly the same as the sun sign. It's a truth. Anything other than that is all painted. That is not true. That is buildings on the basis of experience, past actions, past interactions, even past birth. So every single individuals the one that we see as a body, somebody is sitting inside, has all those accumulated. So all the word that we communicate, we use, cannot be the exactly same meaning that I am having. So the same word that I interpret myself will be different with others, because they interpret with their own past experience and the learning and all this past accumulated energy. So that is going to be different for sure, and because this is not universal truth. But when when every person's, I'm just saying, it's a body, but every person's soul is in that spirit, even word is not required to communicate, because it's in universal truth, that is the soul and soul energy. So this is the my understanding, that why everybody has a different meaning or different interpretation of the word.
Yeah, and different experience with it. Sometimes, like, let's take it as sunshine. So we use sunshine, and I say, wow, you are my sunshine. And that person looks at me and they say, huh, what are you talking about? There's nothing sunny about the day. And there's certainly nothing sunny about me right now. Right? So we get these, even the most beautiful words become thorns, right? They're no longer flowers. And so in that same process of cultivating vocabulary, we have to, it's important for us to understand, first of all, who's the gardener, right? Again, going back to this, always going back to that same point. Who is the gardener? Who is actually creating this vocabulary? And what is the basis of that? And the basis, if you're looking at it from a spiritual perspective, then you need to clear away past experiences. Because if I based my definition and my relationship to sunshine based on my past experiences, what's going to happen is that if I base it on an experience I had last week, it may be a glorious way that I'm interpreting and also receiving and also delivering sunshine. But if it was for a month ago where I was just having a terrible time, then it's gonna not have the same meaning. So my relationship to the word, my relationship to the delivery of the word is going to be shifting if I base it on just my own experience, right? Or on the way that my senses, the way I'm seeing in that moment, the way I'm listening in that moment, the way I'm feeling it in that moment. So the way I'm taking it in through my sense organs right now or in that particular moment may be optimal. But those sense organs may have been triggered to remember something that was a horrible experience. In the same way, it's not consistent, doesn't give you a consistent experience. So you become up and down like a roller coaster. You're going up and down, up and down. The consistency of the words that I'm choosing, the consistency of the meaning that I'm giving, the consistency of the experience that I'm giving with my words and in my receiving of words becomes like a roller coaster. One moment I'm happy, one moment I'm sad, one moment I'm in the middle, right? So how am I cultivating? What kind of words am I choosing to actually store away as my future tools to create meaning, to create sentences, to create stories, to create interpretation, to create perception, to create relationship, to create cooperation, right? So what kind of vocabulary am I cultivating becomes very important. And it's something that actually is very beneficial for us to actually, does everybody here understand the term churning? To churn knowledge? Churn. Everyone? Does anybody not understand the word churning?
I don't.
Churning means that you take a word, for instance, and you take it internally and you allow it to show you its world. So as you're churning, you're taking in peace, for example, peace, and you allow it to enter your consciousness. And what happens, you begin to see how it feels, how it grows and expands, how it actually relaxes not only your physical body, but how it relaxes your process of thinking, right? So you churn it, you're becoming familiar, you're connecting it to it, and you're creating experience with this word so that it becomes so familiar that actually becomes natural for you to go into that experience of peace, right? And words are very similar. So we use words to actually communicate. So they have to become natural for us to be using. And because they're becoming integrated into our system, we have to be, it's kind of like you choose good nutrition, right? Go ahead. Somebody wanted to say something? It's kind of like when you go and create a nice meal and you take in the meal and then you can feel the nutrition being broken up in the physical body, right? And words have a similar space. So words come in and literally nourish, take away from the experience. So we have to cultivate, garden words that we use to communicate, and we are selective. We use words that are not limiting, right? So we're going to use words that are full of possibility, that empower.
Brother, your voice is
We
breaking.
understand these types of words. So can anybody give me an example? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Your voice is breaking. So like.
Oh, it's breaking. Oh. Can you hear me again? There?
We cannot listen completely.
Do a trick. Hold on. All right. So what we're going to do here is you give me a second. I'm going to play with a little bit of technology and see what I can do to solve this problem. Okay. Can everyone hear me now?
Still breaking. It is not clear, brother.
Is that better?
And all others, are you okay with sound, or is it me? Maybe.
No, he's breaking.
Okay. Yeah.
You're breaking.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
It's better now, yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, this is perfect now.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So what we're going to do, so I was saying before.
Brother was talking about the churning, and I had a questions on the same note. Not a question, but I wanted more clarifications in terms of understanding and how we can use both together. So like two words, one is contemplate and second is churn. So on any knowledge that we receive as part of our BK knowledge, so when we contemplate and then churn, so can you explain us how both is related and how we can work on any contemplations and then churning of the knowledge?
Yeah, so basically what I was trying to say is that when you churn the word, you allow it to actually nourish yourself, but also show you what its world is about. And the more we do that, the more we actually practice doing this in this silence that we go into, what happens is that our relationship to different words becomes very powerful. And we also understand how we can infuse it with power when we use them. Okay. So can everybody hear me still?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay, good. So does everybody understand what I was saying in terms of the churning?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
I had a questions, brother, just on the two word and how we can use in a real life with the knowledge. That knowledge that we receive, any knowledge in one sentence, and then contemplate on the knowledge and then churn. So I know both are two different things, but in my understanding, we first to contemplate and the next part is the churn. So
Yeah.
can you please explain a little bit, like keep some light on that, so that we can have both together understanding?
Yeah. So the first thing is to create a sense of contemplation, right?
Yes.
So that sense of contemplation is what you're doing is you're allowing something to enter you, and you're just watching it and sitting there. Just watching it sit and take its place. And then what happens when you actually churn it, you allow it to teach you. So what happens is that this word begins to take on a whole different aspect. It becomes active. So we're no longer just viewing it, we're actually integrating it into ourselves. So literally it's becoming part of us. So you know how so it becomes real because you understand how it unfolds, how it creates. So you understand the power that the word has. So it no longer just becomes a word, it becomes an experience.
That is churning, right?
That is churning. So you're taking something like a word and you're creating experience with it. So it becomes part of you at that point. It's no longer, you know, there's no distance between you and the word. There's no distance between the vibration of that word. You actually become the vibration of the word, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Santiago,
Yes?
is this idea I've heard in the past, people say thought forms, that thoughts become forms, they become an embodied experience that then integrate into the world around us. Like I like to think of my thoughts becoming forms, embodied forms that take on new meaning in the world, both in myself and the world around me.
That's exactly right. And the reason they are, so basically what you're doing is it becomes part of your material that you're creating with. So they become part of, you know how, so you're literally using them as an extension of yourself. And when you use it as an extension of yourself, what you're doing is you're shifting the way you're coloring your relationships, you're shifting. So they literally take on a body, and that body is simply an extension of you. So both the inner dimension of your understanding of it and relationship with that idea shifts, and then the way it becomes embodied is when you use it, it actually helps you create and shift not only the thinking but the hearts and the physicality, the environment around you. But that's why it's important to, when you're using words, to literally first sit to understand who's using it, so that when you begin to really integrate the word into yourself, it actually becomes nutrition for you, because it helps you expand in understanding and then expand with the ability for you to use it as a tool in the space of integrating into the everyday moments. So they're no longer just ideas, they're realities. Does that make sense? Christy?
Yes, that was beautifully said. Thank you.
Brother, like I'm just trying to correlate with the knowledge that we are receiving from the BK. Like we have the fourth subject. I'm just correlating. My mind just took me there when it was explaining. So like the first thing is the knowledge, then meditations, that is kind of a process of churning and grasping the fruit of that, and then having the experience. And the third is embodiment, and the fourth is subject. So the embodiment is the one where we chance and make a part of this, our own actions.
That's right. And that's why, you know, even, you know, it's like we put a lot of power in scriptures, right? People put a lot of power in scriptures. Literally, wars are started because of a scripture or what a scripture said. And so these scriptures actually have lots of, they're just words written on paper. But when people integrate them into their everyday life, into the way they actually feel and the way they think and the way they actually relate with one another, it takes on a completely different world. So churning and in the embodiment can become both positive and also destructive. So that's why you need to understand first, when you actually take something in, you need to understand who you are and what your qualities are, so that when you are cultivating words and you're cultivating ideas, they actually acclimate to who you are, not it's not the reverse. It's not shifting you, right? Otherwise, and that's how alloy or impurities get into our system. We're not careful with not only the words that we let in, but also the ideas and the worlds that we're absorbing into ourselves. And that begins to take us into a positive or a negative, a positive or a negative impact. So paying attention, right?
Yeah, that's good points. That creates another question. So when you're saying that we should be careful, or we should be aware about who I am receiving the knowledge or churning, otherwise it may be the other way.
That's
so,
right.
So like the one that we are practicing every day, I being a soul, and to remember when we're showing I being spirit or the soul, remember the quality and the power. If we forget that to relate the originality, it may something else that we receive, and that may not be the maybe the right things. This is what you mean?
Yeah. So yeah, because what happens is that when you have the right foundation, when you have a foundation that is going to empower you, that is going to nourish you, is very different when you have a foundation that is going to weaken you. So when you are operating out of, so in terms of reaction versus response, when you're simply reacting, right, and you're blaming, and so you come from a space of blaming things, blaming the weather, blaming another person, what happens, that becomes the foundation, right? That becomes the foundation, not only in the way you are giving, but also in the way you're receiving. And instead of empowering you, it weakens you. And the same thing happens with even the most enlightened words. Enlightened words, when not received in a way and from a foundation of purity, then what happens, it can also become dark. So that's the importance of actually understanding who I am, my qualities, what's my foundation. And so that words not only become part of you, but they also become part of you in a way that nourishes you, that is cultivating an inner vocabulary that is beautiful and that is empowering you and that's also protecting you.
Thank you, brother. It is much clear now. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So the next experience that I want to create, so connecting to this, and this is very important for us. So when I ask you to do this experience, which I am, I want you to think about I am. Who do I tell myself? So what's my inner dialogue of who I am? What I am. And I want you to think about it in terms of, it's not just the words of who I am and what I am and whether I am just repeating the word, but I want you to be in the reality, but also in the truth of what you are saying and how you're saying it. Okay, so does everybody understand that? So I want you to go beyond just the words that you say to yourself of I am, and I want you to really integrate what's the reality. Is there any subtle thing there that I'm saying to myself without, now that I'm conscious of the vibration, now that I'm conscious of the word, now that I'm conscious of the use, now that I'm conscious of the intention, I want to tell myself, I want to understand what it is that I'm telling myself, even in the subtlest of forms. So I want you to think, what do you tell yourself when you say, I am, I am? Think about the form, right? What form are you taking? What's actually speaking in your mind? What's creating the image of I am? What form are you taking? What form? I am. What form? And for those who are practicing already BK, knowledge in terms of Raj Yoga and soul consciousness, I want you to think, and I want you to go really deep. I want you to go really deep into that space of I am and contemplate, not just contemplate, connect to the depth of your faith in what you're saying. So connect to the faith in what you are saying. How unlimited or limited is your faith in what you say? I am, I am. So what is it that you're saying? And I want you to write it down. I am. What's your form? I am. Think. Write down your thoughts of I am. And there's no positive or negative. It's just whatever's flowing through your mind. And I want you to be really just pick up any sensitivities, signals that you might be giving yourself at this moment, so that you can be in the truth of the faith in which you exist. So I am. The form. What form? I
Excuse
am.
me,
Oh, yes.
could you give an example with everything? Like when I say I am the form, so like I'm a like life, like a bindu, or can you please explore that form and think by
Sure.
giving
So,
example?
yeah, so the form, I mean, I am. So when you think of I am, are you thinking and you're envisioning I am this body? I am a thinker. I am a feeler. I am. What are you being? Is it an action? Is it a feeling? Is it a concrete shape? Is it I am a soul? I am a spirit. I am energy. How is it that you envision yourself? How do you experience yourself? Does that clarify it?
Yeah, that is what I was thinking. I just
Yeah.
wanted a little clarification.
Yeah,
Thank you
yeah.
so much.
Okay. So self, the form. Now I want you to focus on I am. So look at the thinking in your mind the majority of the time, or just in general. Just in general, what kind of environment exists in your mind when you are quiet and just on your own? What actually is happening? So what kind of I am thinking? What kind of thinking? What's the quality of your thinking? What kind of thoughts are coming into your brain, right? What kind of, is it coming into your brain, or is it I am creating it outside of the brain? I, the being, the creator. So what's your relationship in terms of the creation? How are you perceiving yourself? I am. What are your thoughts like? What aspect of your being is producing the thoughts? I am thinking.
Questions. How
Yeah.
do you know that? How do you know that's not my ego doing it?
Okay, so if you're asking the questions, I want you to jot those down. So how is my thinking? Is my thinking in trust of the experience? Or am I questioning my experience? That's important, right? So when we trust, less questions happen. When we're in trust, trust does not mean that we do not become aware and that we cannot see the reality in the way it exists. It actually means the opposite. It means that I can see every detail right? That which is easy and that which is difficult, but I can see it. But what happens is that I focus on the thing that is going to guide my expansion, my empowerment, right? So I make choices in that consciousness and that awareness. It's not that I'm not seeing things, I'm not seeing difficulties. It's not that I'm not seeing negativity. It's not that I'm not seeing impurity. Is that I am choosing to focus on the thing that is going to be empowering. Okay. And it's not that I'm not going to make correction, is that I'm choosing to choose to empower the correction, right? I'm going to be increasing that which is weak, but I'm not going to give power to that which is weak. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense.
Yeah.
But obviously, I'm not doubting it. I'm just asking because that's a question that comes up. So that's why I would like you to go deep into this, because what you're talking before is really, it's just something that's very good. But now you explain that maybe something that is negative and I have to make choices, which is very different. If I'm very new, I'm just listening to you, I'll be very happy. So is there any other thing that you need to go deeper and go into it?
Yeah. So if you so basically all these techniques, the churning and the awareness of self-awareness, is that so that it is so that your third eye, your spiritual eye, can actually see clearer with clarity. And when we look with clarity, we can see everything. Every single little tiny speck, every single little tiny weakness that needs to be strengthened. We see all of it. But what happens is that we take a certain perspective that allows us to only focus on what needs to. So instead of looking at it from a weakness, we begin to see it as this needs to grow. This needs to grow. And so we begin to water it. And that's how the words, you know how I said cultivate the right vocabulary? And the reason why we're cultivating that vocabulary, the powerful vocabulary, is because the words that I'm internally using make a very big difference in the way my thinking, my feeling, doing will become. So internally, I am using words that empower, that help me expand. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'll go back to the recording and go through your sessions. Thank you.
You're welcome. So now I want you to understand also, let's go back into the feeling. What is the feeling that I am actually engaged with? You know, not just in this particular moment, but think about just generally. How am I feeling? What is the general feeling? Am I feeling content? Am I feeling whole? Am I feeling free? Am I feeling unlimited? What's the general state of my feeling? When nobody's watching, right? What are the words that I'm using? And when nobody's watching, what's the state of my doing? Do I become lazy or do I become very accurate and caring and thoughtful and detailed oriented? So how do I do when nobody's watching? How do I do when I remember who I am or I'm connected to who I am? Just for myself. What do I do just for myself? Sometimes that's the most difficult thing. It's easy to do for others, but how do I do when it's just me? Can anybody share some of their thoughts? And I want you to, this exercise is, I want you to create a little story, okay, about I am. So take the ideas, take the words that you wrote down or thought of, if you don't have a pencil or a pen. And I want you to now create a story and share it with us. Share who I am. I am. Tell us a story based on, incorporate the form, the thinking, the feeling, and doing, and just be as honest as you can, okay? There's no judgment, there's no right and wrong, it's just what it is. It is what it is, that's all. Would anybody like to give it a go?
I'd go, actually. Okay. This was a great exercise. I got out some paper and I wrote it down. So when you first started to ask I am, it was thank you for keeping the prompt up, because that made me focus. But when you first asked I am, I went into self-limiting beliefs, you know, that old story, and I wrote down a few of them. And then I'm like, wait, I'm the creator. That's what you're telling us. I am the embodied experience. I'm creating these thoughts and beliefs right now. So I might choose a story where I'm boundless pain, but I'm also boundless joy. I'm the creator. I choose my experience. I choose the creating. I'm creating the universe, and the universe is creating me. You went into thinking. I did overthinking versus calm. I get pain in the brain from overthinking, actually, and loud noises. You asked, what's the quality of thinking? I'm looking at my relationship with overthinking, why I'm creating this, why I'm telling why I'm telling stories, period, that aren't true. And someone in the group brought up such a great question about the ego. Because then I remembered the egoic mind versus soul consciousness, and returning to creating from soul consciousness. When I find myself in these ego loops, and I think that's the secret to spirituality, is to anchor in the soul and not anchor in the world. Because we can't control the world and the causes and conditions. And that's me reacting versus responding and being a conscious creator. So you asked us about empowering thoughts, and that led me to the belief that, you said don't give power to what is weak. So I said, I am the creator of the experience. I'm the master creator. And realizing you're the master creator, for me, it's very liberating. I step into a lot of like a sense of greater agency, more power and freedom, because I have free will to choose my choices. And that's actually a gift. And thinking about my entire experience, I found it, you said, what do I do for myself? And I feel that helps me create to my soul and my spiritual experience. And I feel like it's important for me to connect to a place of inner wonder, like a child, before I had judgment, where I was non-judgment, before the society causes of conditions of societies and part in a certain belief system that I learned. And now I'm trying to unlearn, but acquire greater sophistication through spiritual life. I wrote art, new hobbies, being in nature, trying new things, bike riding. That was a really beautiful exercise. I'm sorry, I don't know if I went too long, but thank you for that.
No, you perfect.
I missed a page. I said much of my pain and suffering is self-chosen. I'm the creator. I choose how I frame the experience. So I can choose something more positive, or at least from a more place of equanimity. and acceptance and forgiveness. And
Yeah. You're still there?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So thank you so much for that. Yeah, it's very powerful because when, the first exercise that we entered with at the beginning was really, who is saying the word, who is creating the word. And the reason, this is why it's very important for us to take time to actually prepare ourselves to go into to absorb the word. Because when we understand who is creating the word, then we get to choose the type and the quality of word that we're creating. And that goes back to the cultivation of a beautiful vocabulary, right? A vocabulary that is empowering, a vocabulary that is nurturing, a vocabulary that is caring, kind, mindful, respectful, tolerant. So the words are like the fruit of the seed, right, of our foundation. So our foundation has many aspects to it, right? Respect and kindness. So that sense of who I am, my qualities, and from those qualities you bear the fruit of language, you bear the fruit of expression, you bear the fruit of words that literally are melting other people's minds in a beautiful way, melting them with love, melting them with kindness, right? That's why it becomes very important, and to understand how it is that I'm speaking and seeing myself becomes very important in letting go of waste, the words that are wasteful. And that's why we go into meditation. That's why meditation becomes powerful too as a tool. So now I want to go, does anybody else want to share? We'll take one more person. Anyone? Who am I? I am. Anyone?
I just had to step out for a couple of minutes. I got call from office, but I had this exercise, and I would like to share, not in details because I could not write it. So if you allowed me.
Would you like to share it orally? And
yes, I could not write it down. Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So when I was going through the beginning about I am, self, form, thinking, feeling, doing, and being. So in my everyday exercise, I try to practice this and experience this. So when I say I am, I see myself, feel myself as energy, and I see like being as energy. It's like point of flight is my form, and I try to visualize that with my intellect.
Mm-hmm.
Every morning when I wake up, to me it takes some time, and try to leave that experience just this 2 point. I am just using my intellect. I'm trying to see myself and try to experience that. Use my mind to think. So this so, and they like in the morning, and then we connect to supreme energy. So before supreme energy, I try to experience this and leave this. Sometimes takes 4-5 minutes, sometimes take 1-2 minutes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it quicker, but sometimes it take more time to see myself as a self. Like when I'm walking, like I can see in the day easily that who is walking. So that practice in the morning self, it takes time. So these 3 words, self, when I see myself as a self, I with my intellect, I try to see, picturize that point of light and the location.
Yeah.
And sometimes for second 2 or 3, I see clearly and I kind of forget the other body consciousness, not longer than that. So this is my practice I'm doing. So when I'm saying self, form, and thinking, so the next practice I'm trying to do this, like when I am in this consciousness for a second or 2 or 5, and then I try to visualize with my with that consciousness, my 5 senses just coming in, through eye, through hearing, through smelling and feeling. So and when I can see that at one point of time, I can be in the present. So then I can visualize my 3 powers, that is subtle power. So then I can talk to my mind. Then my mind listen. So that creates a very, very beautiful feelings. Okay, and the doing, like, since I do not write and I was not present at my computers, I had to step out to attend my office call. So then that becomes in my day to, like, whole day, it's become in my doing. But I'll try to say one more thing here. If I don't practice day 2, it disappears also. Okay, it's very quickly disappears. So practicing, when I practice every day, 10 minutes in the morning at wake ups before going into real meditations, that is still longer whole day experience. When I close the door of my house and start walking outside, it comes immediately to me, and I can see, like, who I am. So that self form and thinking, and mind very often goes anywhere and think anything. So then I can see my mind, because when I see myself at the point of light, it's me. So then I can talk to my mind, and minds come back. So this is my just experience. I'm sorry I couldn't write it.
No, it's quite all right.
I thought
thank you for sharing it. The thing I'll add to your comment is also being aware of the kind of words that I'm using in my description. Like, I'll give you an example. Trying. So for a spiritual practice, we don't try anything. We do. Right. So I'm always doing the practice. It's also even a sense of practice. I'm not practicing. I'm doing what I need to do. So just these are very subtle things that we do, but we don't think that they're that important. But actually, it creates an experience, and it creates a world that I'm still not doing it. But in fact, every time you try, you are doing it. Every time you're practicing, you are doing it. So now change the word. I am doing it. I am becoming. And change it even further from I am becoming, I am. See? So so understand that that you give yourself permission to become, to be, right? And sometimes in a second you arrive to I am. Simply because you're changing the language from I'm trying, I'm becoming, to I am. The minute that I say I am, your entire dynamic of mind, of heart, and of your instrument becomes different. So really getting into that state of consciousness, I am, and not thinking that you're still practicing or that you're going to get there someday. No, be in that I am. That's what I am means. It means I am choosing right now to be, I am. So we have that power, and that's what we are reminded a lot of times through the Merlis and through different sort of people who have reached a very high state of consciousness, and that is that they just chose to be that I am. And all it took was a second of faith that I can use the words that way, that I have the power to use I am in that way.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Yes, it will make difference for sure. I'll practice. No, I am. I'll practice this.
Yeah, little shifts like that sometimes can trick us, right, to thinking that we can't. So make sure that we are in the consciousness of I can, and I choose to create. That does not come from ego. It comes from the reality of, as you said, truth. I am a powerful spiritual being who has unlimited capacity, right? So I am. So what story am I creating? How am I experiencing the story? How deeply do I have faith that that story that I'm telling myself is real? And how am I living it? How am I actually activating it in a physical, practical way? So just keep all these little tiny notes in mind.
Yes. Yeah.
And then the other thing that just very quickly I want to just briefly go into is think about who you told and who you say you are to yourself. Now I want you to contemplate those same questions. I am. And how is it that you present yourself to the outer world when somebody is watching you? When somebody is in front of you, listening, paying attention to your words, to your gestures, to your vibrations, to your body movements. Okay? I want you to just give that a little thought. Who I am when in front of others. I am when I know the external world is watching. I want you to just go deep into that experience. I am in front of my neighbor, my friend, my boss, my teacher, my child, a stranger. I am. Think of the same exercise. I am. What form am I taking? Am I taking the same form? Or am I taking on one of my roles? A different idea? Is my thinking the same? Am I still thinking of myself as unlimited, as powerful, eternal, capable, feeling confidence of strength, of wholeness? Does it remain with me when I'm facing the external world? Do I do and do I create in an unlimited way? I am unstoppable, unlimited, or do I create and accept limitations exposed or imposed upon me? Who am I? So I want you to just contemplate that, and I want you to answer the question, am I the same being when I am by myself as I am with the external world? Would anybody like to answer that? Are you the same I am when you're by yourself as when you are with others in the external world? Anyone? Go ahead. Would anybody like to share their...
I'd go, but I already shared, so I
Well,
just love your class so much.
You can share again if you like.
I love the
There's
spiritual
no
knowledge,
limit.
like you were saying before, these classes give us the words to construct this type of experience of being a soul, because it's sensory and all of these other things. So I feel like what you were describing earlier, the transition from really the, you know, I am just a body, to I'm a spirit and a soul, and anchoring from that place. Much of what you've discussed in today's class is about emotional liberation and how to find that. And I think the secret being that I'm eternal, because when I remember that I'm eternal and I go back to where I came from, then you just you're able to shift your view from your worldview from just the planet to the higher realms. And I'm an unlimited being, and I'm a master creator, and I'm a world benefactor. And I can put real purpose behind my words and my being and how I create to make positive changes in this world for myself and other people. I choose that I can choose that every moment. Having the classes in spiritual knowledge helps me, reminds me of that. And I have something from one of the Merleys on my wall, because I post things on my wall to empower me or remember certain things from different classes I'm taking. And this one was about, it's so beautiful. It said, you said, like, how do I remember? A lot of what you're describing and practicing these techniques is becoming like the liberated you. I can do that a lot more by myself than in the external world. It's easier externally with strangers. Practicing on the people that are closest to us, I find is the hardest for me. But that's where a lot of my patterning comes from, that I'm trying to break free of and find emotional liberation. And what you're talking about helps give me that, helps me remember. But this Merle said, seed form, I'm a point of spiritual energy, a being of peace, I'm eternal. And when I'm reminded of that and all of that grace, it gives me so much connection to the Supreme Being. Helps me anchor back as a soul and be a master creator.
Very important for us to realize if we are being aligned with our I am, both internally journeying, and I am internally by myself, and then how am I showing up in the external world? So is there alignment with who I am? Is there alignment? Is there a sense of integrity in that I am? Is there a sense of faith, trust in that I am, so that it literally gets expressed through my words, through my process? No matter where I am, no matter who I'm with, I remain I am consistently, right? So it's about creating that sense of experience of consistent self. And how do we create that? By understanding and creating the vocabulary to be able to describe it, so that we can then experience it, so that we can then be it, right? So really cultivating cultivating a vocabulary. Why words become, as I mentioned before, words take on different forms. But how often do we actually think about words in terms of vibration? And when we look at the word from vibration, then we ask ourselves, well, what in this whole system that I call myself creates the vibration? What in this whole system creates the physicality of words? What in this whole system that I call myself is creating chemicals out of when the word becomes chemical in the system or an electromagnetic field, right? Neuroplasticity, when a word is spoken, a neuroplasticity occurs. A dynamic occurrence happens in the brain. The electromagnetic fields light up in a certain way. Understanding the mechanics of how words actually are affecting and creating within us, within our ecosystem that we call, right? So the vibration comes from the spiritual being, am creating a vibration. A thought, right? A word is a seed, is an element of a thought, and therefore it has a certain vibration. So how am I holding that vibration? How am I increasing the vibration or decreasing the vibration? So the more I understand myself and who's actually creating, the more I understand how to increase the power of the vibration. How to physically utilize the power of words when I'm writing. Know that it has power behind it. Because the minute I start writing and I am actually vibrating a certain quality, then that word becomes infused, that message becomes infused with it. Chemical, the word itself, we look at words and we think letters. But inside of us, in this process called the physical body, the experience of the soul in combination with the physical body, the word, these letters, these words, actually when I say a word like peace, chemicals are being produced in my system. So sometimes we use positive words, empowering words, and sometimes we use weakening words. And each one of them causes a chemical reaction. So how conscious am I? How constructive am I in the way I use words in a responsible way so it doesn't produce chemicals that can harm the physical body, that can create illness, right? So words have many different ways of creating reaction, a process. So being responsible with words so that words are not the cause of illness, of not the cause of chemicals that are actually going to break down my system. And words that create a electromagnetic field, a sensation of vibration that actually helps create an environment on the outside world where people feel supported, nurtured, listened to. So understanding the mechanisms of words and how they actually produce within our system, this ecosystem that I call I am or myself, that includes both the soul, it includes the physical aspect, this physical body, then all of these organs and chemicals and electromagnetic fields and everything that creates this I am. So understand how it is that these words produce within me, right? Any questions about that? And we go back to this simple, again, why is it important that I understand who I am? Because if we understand that the word itself, one word, can produce certain chemicals, then when we actually, when we understand the relationship of words, okay, to thoughts. So what are thoughts? Can anybody tell me? What's a thought? What's a thought?
What are the different thoughts?
Yeah, what's one thought? Just describe what a thought is. What is a thought?
It's energy.
Okay, what else? So if the word is vibration, the word is also chemical, the word is physical, the word is electromagnetic. So the thoughts right? What are the thoughts? They have those same properties. But now, because the thoughts are a sequence of words, right, that are chained together, the power of those thoughts, of those words that are coming together, combining their powers, combining their abilities, what happens is the thoughts become more powerful, right? So a single word has a certain power, but then when you combine them, those thoughts become powerful. So where are the thoughts being created and who's creating the thoughts?
It is I.
Where?
Yeah, it is creating the mind, but it is the I who is the creator of the thought.
Yeah. So understanding, so we always speak of the soul, but the soul has components. So understanding what component is actually creating the thoughts. So why are we cultivating a beautiful vocabulary, a beautiful collection of words used with ease and naturally? Why? Because if we have a beautiful vocabulary of words to choose from, we can create beautiful thoughts, nurturing thoughts, right? So it's this whole sense of one chain reaction leads to another chain reaction. So if I have cultivate a garden of beautiful words, together they create thoughts, and those thoughts will naturally have the same quality as those beautiful words that I'm choosing to cultivate. Right? So it becomes easy. So I let go of words that are weak. They no longer become part of my vocabulary. I don't store them inside myself. I don't practice them. I don't empower them. I don't use them anymore. They kind of get deleted. And a lot of dadis often say, just let go of the waste. The words, throw them out, right? Don't use them anymore. There's a reason. The more we edit the words we store in ourselves, the less weakness and impurity that actually can exist inside ourselves. It's chain reaction. One little simple element, the word, then when it's sequenced together, comes a thought, and that thought creates a vibration, creates a reality, creates an experience, creates a connection, creates a relationship. So I, the spiritual being, that point of light, if you want to look at it that way, I, the spiritual being, the spiritual nature, the spiritual vibration, the peaceful one, the loving one, the kind one, the tolerant one, the unlimited one, the immortal one, create thoughts that cultivate and produce a beautiful world. Right? Simple. So the more we understand the building blocks, the more we understand our relationship to them, the more we understand our foundation, the easier it becomes to literally experience and become that. And that's why it's important for us to pay attention. Pay attention. If you look at the words that I'm using and I basically say, is this a responsive word or is this a reactive word? What do you think is the difference between those two in terms of what we've been talking about? So one is responsive, the other one is reactive. What do you think is the difference? Can anybody try to explain that?
Okay. Responsive and reactive. So whenever any situation comes, any word comes towards us, and here in your last even pictures, you were showing I as the soul, the consciousness, and we have subconscious mind. So that's how the memories.
Mhm.
So if I, at that moment, that present, we have not cultivated as a present I am, so that subconscious mind is going to take over, and whatever's past experience, it's stored, past belief system is stored. On that basis, it is going to process and going to, I can say response, but that is reactive, because the way energy coming, it is using the past memories, and it is just automatically coming out of the system. So that is reactive. Responsive is, at that moment I am present. I, the spirit, I am present. Now I have the power to stop and use the the consciousness soul that just now we said seven qualities. I'm the love, I'm the peace, right? I'm the happiness, I'm the powers, right? I'm the pure. So this is what I am. So here I can disconnect my past experience, like what my past is done. So now the come out from our system is response. So now I'm present. So now I choose the word, I choose the my response, and I take the full
That's right. Yeah. Yes. And to add to that, responsive means that I have the capacity, because I know myself and I understand my tools and I understand what I've cultivated internally and what I am naturally internally as a spiritual being. I then exercise my power to choose, my will. And instead of just being in relationship to what is being given to me, what is being thrusted at me by the world, I simply sit, and from a detached space, I watch it, accept it without judgment, accept it just for what it is. But I exercise my power to choose and work from the inside out as opposed to from the outside in. So I'm working from what I know to be real and true from my being, and I am going to share that to whatever comes towards me. So it's going to be a consistent cause and effect, right? When I'm reacting, I have not taken the time to understand who I am, and therefore I simply am in a constant cause and effect according to external influences, because I have no awareness of who and the foundation that I naturally have inside of me. Okay? So it's a lack of awareness of the self. So in response, I am fully in awareness of my full self, my whole self, my perfect being. And in reaction, I am out of awareness of that which I am. So therefore, the only thing I'm constantly doing, playing this vicious cycle of action that's connected to external influences. So I'm kind of invisible. I'm choosing, by not taking the time to really connect and to understand myself, I am choosing to be invisible in the process of life. Does that make sense? Very simple.
What do you mean by chosen to invisible?
To be invisible means that you act as if, you know how we said sometimes the words come out and it feels like it's coming out of somebody else's body?
Yes.
So it's that. It's that you choose to not be responsible in your creation. So you're looking at the words just coming out of out of a body, but you're not taking the responsibility to say, this is my body and these are my creations, right? So you are living as if you were invisible in the process, despite the fact that you're still creating the words and you're still creating the actions. You're choosing to be invisible in that process to yourself, right? You're not invisible to the external space, and you're not invisible in that present moment because you're doing the action, but you're creating the consciousness that you don't exist in that process. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
go ahead.
Before you move, I have a question. So this is like on the same topic, but I just want to understand a little more on that. So the two
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, the two words that we often use, and I see it's always comes in practice, awareness. And the second is attentive or attention. So attention, yeah. So I want to understand a little bit more subtle in and deep, that I am aware of myself, like I'm walking or interacting with my neighbors or my office mate. I'm aware I'm the self. At the same time, a lot of times we say attention, right? So my attentions I'm aware I'm the soul, but my attention is not present and maybe somewhere else. So how we can integrate these two things and use in real life practice?
Yeah. So attention actually has to do with the sense organs. So you're at attention when your sense organs are actually, your sight is looking, right? But when you're in awareness, your sight changes. It's the awareness of the I, the spiritual being that is seen with my third eye. So it's a different form of attention. One is with spiritual awareness or spiritual attention. When you use attention just on its own, it's basically in terms of the physical aspect experience of seeing or experiencing, right? So awareness, the difference is one is the awareness of who is actually seeing it from a spiritual perspective, and the other one is the act of the physical experience of actually looking at the details that are around you. Does that make sense?
Yes, brother, but I have follow-up questions on this. So when I'm saying attention, sometimes what I understand is like, even like I'm in this class, but my attention is maybe at my work somewhere else. So I have to bring my attention back.
You have to bring it.
So I was trying to understand in this way that I'm aware sometimes. So is this is like, are these two words are integrated, aware and attention, that sometimes I am class and say my attention is not here? And
that's right. So you have to raise your awareness in order to remain in the right attention. Do you understand the relationship?
No.
I have to raise my awareness. I have to raise my understanding of myself in that moment in order to come to full attention of my overall ecosystem. Yes?
Yes.
So I'm elevating attention to a conscious awareness. I'm consciously seeing with my spiritual eye. I'm no longer just seeing or listening with just the act of using my physical instruments. And so when we use attention, is that your physical instrument is not following your direction. So you have to bring it back to attention, right? So you, the charioteer, has to pull in the senses so that they can be at with the right awareness. Does that make sense?
Yes. Or can I like take this way, like where my attention goes, I am there, I, the consciousness there. So even though I'm sitting here and my attention goes somewhere else, so I'm not present here at the moment. So
That's right.
so my physical all five senses is not working, I can say, because it is the sound is coming to my ear, but I'm not present to hear that.
That's right.
So the attention is very close to I, like where attention goes, I am.
So that's right. So when you become aware, you're functioning out of I am. When you are in a, you're just when you're putting attention, it's just your physical senses and what state of awareness of consciousness you're in. You're not in the consciousness of yourself as a spiritual being. You're literally just operating as a physical body.
Got it. Yeah, it makes more sense now. Yeah.
Yeah. So some words are, we are bombarded by advertisement, and we are bombarded by imagery. No matter where we go, whether it's on the phone, you can walk down the street or drive down the street, wherever you're going to hit some form of message. And what's interesting about the message is the power of the understanding of how these people create messages, because they create messages with intentionality. And that's what makes these billboards, these advertisements, so powerful, because they understand language. They're using language to create action. They're telling you what to do, right? And some words are very heavy. They're heavy with meaning, and they're also sometimes have a universal sense of connection, like the word heaven. Heaven, right? So how we relate to words depends on a lot of things. And one of the main things is, how do I define it? But then also, how am I connected to it? What's the connection between this word? So heaven, what does heaven mean? Heaven, what does it mean to you? Can anyone answer? Heaven. Is it a real place?
The two words that comes just like immediately is peace and prosperity.
Okay. So those are two aspects of heaven, right?
Yes, I can say. Yeah, we can say.
Yeah. Heaven, is it real? Is it a word that we just created? Is it an actual place? When does it does it actually take place in reality, or is this just kind of like a fairy tale?
I think it's a state of life. It's not a place, because heaven exists in your own life. You're either in one of these worlds, like the world of rapture, or heaven. Heaven can be at peace, tranquility, because there is no angels flying around in this magic space, and then everybody's just going to be in this other world. It's sort of, it's heaven is right here on this earth. How we feel every day, how we manifest our happiness. It's, to me, that's my experience. I know other people of different beliefs believe it's another place, but a lot of times we get out of reality thinking that there's another better place, but the best place is like right where we are, to be able to change our circumstance.
Yeah.
So my take on it.
Beautiful. Thank you. Anyone else? Heaven, what does that mean to you?
Enlightenment.
Enlightenment, okay. Anything else?
I feel like it's one of those things. I mean, heaven's something that's described in scripture, but scripture was language. That's like, people are storytellers, and we communicated in the past, like a lot of these lessons and embodied experience through those stories. So that's separate. The type of heaven I think you're talking about is an inside job. like because heaven lies inside of me.
Yeah, it's so all of, anyone else want to add anything else on heaven? Heaven. What does heaven
No,
mean?
I just like to hear what you think.
Yeah, me too.
Well, heaven, I mean, it's very interesting because the reason why I put heaven is because everybody has some kind of, even if you're an atheist, you still have an opinion about heaven. So we have opinions, we have creating definition and meaning, and through this process, we, without even thinking or even relating, understanding what it is that is happening when we actually take a word like heaven or take any word and we begin to give it power. That's something that we don't understand and we are not conscious about. How am I giving a word power? Because it's not inherent in the word, right? It's not inherent. Power, the meaning and the power that a word has in our life, in the way I think, in the way it makes me feel, in the way I act around that word or with the word, is not inherent in the word. It's actually given. And very rarely do we actually understand the fact that we are actually giving something power, and specifically to words.
So are you saying that we want to choose positive power to relate to any word?
Well, it's we have to be aware that I am actually giving the word power. So it's not about choosing necessarily, it's about the fact that I need to be aware of the fact that the word itself is nothing. But when I actually create a relationship with the word, I'm actually begin to give it power. And the strength of the word and how it vibrates and how it actually creates within me. So health, let's say wellness, all of a sudden I think of wellness and I smile, right? Because it automatically makes me think, oh, everything's jolly inside of me. But it's not just the word, it's because I have given it that significance, that definition, that meaning, that space to empower me to smile and to create this sense of harmony within myself. So it's a chain reaction that I am creating based on the power I have given and the world I have created around the word. So just as I can give a word power to literally lift me up and make me dance, same word, we were discussing this before, a word that which I have given power. Let's say, I'll give you an example. Brother and sister are upset with each other. They call each other nicknames, right? When they're happy, they love themselves, they love each other so much that they give the little nicknames and they use them, and each time they use it, they're happy, right? But when they're upset with each other, what happens? Even the nicknames become poison. Don't call me that. I don't want to. Please don't say that, because we're giving the words that are being used in that moment a different power. So understanding that the word itself, a word, does not have power until we actually give it to it. It does not have meaning until we actually give it meaning. Collectively, we come to an understanding of, sort of in general terms, what a word might mean in terms of its definition. But on the individual level, in the level of the I am, the power of a word is dependent on what I choose to give it. And understanding that becomes very instrumental in the way I create with words. So what power am I giving? How much power am I giving? And when I combine words, just like the advertisers and the advertising agencies that spend millions of dollars on coming up with the right campaign, right? With the right word. It's only like 4 words that they might put on a poster. But that poster is up for months. And you know what that poster is creating? It's creating worlds. It's creating feelings. It's creating states of consciousness, states of identity. So understanding that when I choose not to be present, when I choose not to take time to be connected with the I am, the foundation of the I am, these words can create powerful impressions upon you without you even knowing it. So pay attention, because if you don't filter these words, if you don't filter these messages, what happens is that they begin to create within you. So understanding that the power I give something, it's simple as something, you see a billboard and they say, you need to look this way. You need to have this weight, you need to have this color eyes, you need to have whatever it is that they're saying. And you begin to believe it, to give it this false sense of, this is true. I do have to be this way. Guess what's going to happen? That billboard has just taken the power from you and is now creating a certain sense of reality, a certain sense of identity. That's why advertising spends so trillions of dollars every year to come up with the right campaign, the right message, the right use of words, to make sure that you are out of attention. So this work brings you back into attention, into awareness, right? Into the awareness that you need in order to understand how your senses are responding to words, how your internal world is responding to words. So how am I participating in bringing meaning to words, right? So you see an advertisement or you see something that we've seen just recently, an image with the right way of wearing a mask, right? And then they add, do your part, show respect, right? So all these things, they create a story, and they don't have to write what it is that they mean to tell you, because the brain, your brain and your spirit is picking up on all these different little subliminal messages, stories, worlds. So we have to be at and in awareness of who we are, of what is internally in us, in the fact that we're whole, complete, as opposed to believing that we're broken, like the advertisements wants us to believe. Something's missing, something's wrong, something needs to be fixed. So I bring meaning by paying attention to how I am bringing or allowing these visuals, these words, these spoken messages to enter my system. So does it go in one ear and it goes out the other? Or is it going in and creating havoc, chaos in my internal system, in my idea of who I am? Is it disturbing my I am? Is it destroying the natural spiritual foundation that exists there? Is it causing me to forget because of the meaning that I allowed to enter my consciousness, right? So how do I participate in bringing meaning and also strengthening meaning, strengthening the story? So how am I playing my part? Am I remembering the I am? Earthquake. Earthquake. How does that make you feel? The word earthquake. What does that image do to you?
Anxious.
Anxious. Weren't you just peaceful in just a second ago?
Mm-hmm.
Weren't you at yeah. Anyone else? Earthquake. We're in California. Nobody has a response to earthquake other than this?
It's very fearful.
Yeah, fearful. Anyone else?
It is like two different pictures of heaven and earthquake. One is everything is destroyed. If you come earthquake, like everything is fall down, and we'll say heaven is a different picture. So it's opposite of that.
So from a soul conscious perspective or a spiritual perspective, these two images should be the same.
Yes.
Right? Right? So how am I experiencing things? How am I experiencing words? How am I bringing meaning to them? How am I allowing them to shift my state of thinking, my state of feeling, my state of doing, my state of self-identity? But from a spiritual perspective, these two images
are the
should be
same.
the same.
Yeah.
Why are they the same?
Because internally I'm unshakable, unmovable, no matter whatever happens outside. It does not change how I feel internally.
That's right. So whether it's good or whether it's bad, I am detached, right? I remain myself, remain whole. I don't need anything from anyone, so I don't need somebody's approval. I don't need somebody's words to empower me. I am complete, right? I am a detached observer. And I am clear as to who I am and also what I am. So those images should be the same. If you are in the consciousness of yourself, nothing should be able to shake you, and especially not words. Why? Because words are created by you and they are given power by you. So you will only be as shaken up by a word as you allow it or as you give it power to shake you up, right? So you're, in a sense, shaking yourself up. And that has a lot to do with this next thing, is how is faith related to the power of words and symbols, you know? And that has to do just with that simple act of, I believe and I have faith that that word, that symbol is real and true. And that has nothing to do with the word. It has to do with an accumulated sense of connection to it, also a response to what you were taught about it. As a collective, as a society, what do these symbols become? and what you were told and how to relate to them. But at any given time, no matter what the symbol is, no matter what the word is, you always have the power to create a new relationship. Right? So no matter what the word is, no matter what the symbol is, you always have the power when you're in the consciousness of yourself, the unlimited self, to create a new relationship, even with the most powerful symbols that the world brings in front of you. Even when the entire world is in acceptance of meaning and is empowering certain words, certain actions, you have the power to exercise your will to be yourself.
College. But it's one thing to have that exposure, and it's another thing, right, to sustain your practice and your relationship with the divine and empowering yourself as a serviceable instrument, which both of you have. And to tell a little bit about Brother Karan, he, of course, has been practicing Raj Yoga since 1992, and he's a physiotherapist by profession.
Did you want to say something further? Hello? Hello? Did you want to say something? Can everybody hear me?
Yes, can hear you. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Did
Yes,
you
we
want
can hear you.
something, sister?
Oh, no. I'm good. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah, so again, it's you know, we went through this whole idea of the perception of I am, right? And who and how you create that. Now, can you keep that to be consistent? And I think that that's a story that many of us have shared at one point or another, and that is that that we are in a process, and that sometimes it's difficult, sometimes it's impossible, that the world is what it is, and therefore how can we change it? So it's a world of I am creating a reality and a relationship of excuses, of blames. And in order for me to remain with myself, remain in myself, I have to let those practices, those actions go. And really, as I said before, every word and any symbol has as much power as you give it. And in the same way, everything that you choose to make real, you have the power to make real. So if you say, this is what I want to do, there is no question, just do it, right? And some might say, well, it's easier said than done. But it's that sense of faith and commitment that occurs. I commit to giving myself the power to make this real, right? So letting go of trying, letting go of practicing, just being. So just as easily as you can take away something, you can give it the power. And that's how it works. It's like, just because we have millions of trillions of people out there creating a certain reality, it does not mean that I have lost the the choice or the ability to actually create something different, right? So it is my choice, and I am in a position to either add one more individual to the pool of society, or just live in my own reality that seems real and natural for me. And it's just that simple. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess it always makes sense with people who got it, and it is really not that making sense a lot of time, even if it makes sense to people who are not getting it.
Who are not getting. And so can you explain that a little bit more in terms of
I'm saying
what
that
is it they
there's a lot of examples is the ultimate, but and then if I raise my question, then I'll be put into categories. Oh, I'm on the body consciousness. I bring the world to it. Let's make it this way. Let's make sense. I understand that I should not blame the world for it. It's not the world. It's who I actually control my own reactions. Being the virtues that I learned. Having said that, the difficulties is always right. So I can say that it's difficult. And then for me who has actually accomplished, then I would say it's actually not difficult. It's actually very easy. That's like Baba always said. But then you also always hear from a lot of other sisters, be careful, because you would have unpleasant situation and you would sleep a lot of time, and then you have to get yourself back up. So my understanding is, after I learn this, I don't react anymore, I respond. But when it comes to a very difficult situation, like if the other party is really troublemaker, right? And then the first time he swear at me for no reason, I responded by actually even saying sorry for that, with even don't even worry about who has the fault. But then he keep attacking, attacking. Then at one point, and then we becomes to lose a little bit. So what I want to hear is from you, brother point of view, what type of wording now will you use? After 2 or 3 times you are being attacked by the same person, you already apologize, even if it's his fault, right? So I would like to hear in that sense, to learn something from what you actually structure the thought, knowing that this person is now you have come across a very difficult person. This is the stuff that I would like to really hear from you.
So the first thing I would say is that to not say a word. So, you know, when you face difficulties, when somebody is at that level of being outside, what we call being outside of themselves, the best thing to do is use silence as a tool. But it's not silence, it's not an inactive silence, it's a very active silence. And it's the silence where you go into yourself and you hold yourself, right? And what you're doing also is you're going to take a word like, let's say, calm. And when you take that word, and you know, remember we were talking about churning a word? It's the same idea. Because I've been practicing to churn words and to understand the power and to understand my power to vibrate, right? Because words take on different forms. So very practically speaking, I take the time to go into silencing myself so that I can remain a detached observer, remain in my silence and in my connection to myself, connection to my virtues, to my qualities, so I don't get distracted by how deeply this person has lost their way in terms of their own sense of direction, right? So I'm not going to be distracted by that, but instead I'm going to be in acceptance of their state, and I'm going to go heal myself and stabilize myself. But I'm also going to do one more thing. I'm going to use the power of vibration. So I'm going to think of the word, right? A quality. let's say what you, in that particular moment and in connection with this particular being, and in that silence, your internal instruments say, this person, what this person really needs is a little bit of just peace or calm or just sense of just relaxation or tranquility or acceptance, just the energy of acceptance. I'm going to watch, I'm going to sit here or stand here, and I'm just going to be really in that space of my own awareness, but I'm paying attention to this soul that's in front of me who is caught up with something with the outside world that has him very much in a state of chaos. But I'm going to remain in my own stability, and I'm going to choose, I'm going to really pay attention and listen to the need. Now I'm going to take this quality of tolerance and acceptance, and I'm going to just vibrate it. So I'm going to have that thought in my mind, acceptance, kindness, right? And I'm going to start to infuse myself with that, vibrate it. And then I'm going to just fill the space, surround this being with that. And I'm going to be also be patient with the process. A lot of times we lose our patience in the process of really stabilizing ourselves, and also stabilizing ourselves and being patient with the transformation. So I'm going to stay in silence as long as I need to, and as long as I feel is right. I'm going to trust my own sense of timing. And I'm going to just feed this individual, this soul, some acceptance and some kindness, right? I'm just going to be here and I'm going to listen to what he has to say, not because I'm going to absorb it and have it affect me and take it personally, but I'm just going to accept that this person is in this particular state. It is what it is. And I'm just here to hold a beautiful space for him. And I'm going to stay here and I'm going to continue to hold a beautiful space for him and be patient with the process. And this person, as he goes, and then you see that perhaps he calms down, or perhaps he's just continuing in his rant. And then what you are going to do is you're going to make a decision whether you are strong enough in that moment to continue to be holding that space for him. And if you feel that you are strong enough, then you're patiently going to just be there listening, giving of your time, of your energy, of your vibration. Or you're going to say, this is too much for me right now. And you're going to say, okay, I need to excuse myself. And what you are going to do is you're going to create the space to give both of you a break, right? And you move forward. So you're an intelligent being. We're all intelligent beings, but we need to trust that we also know what to do in every single situation. And when we don't know, we need to give ourselves the space to be able to go internally so that we can actually listen to the direction that is being given to us. Is that practical enough for you in terms of?
Yeah, thank you.
So
when you say to listen to the direction, you mean to listen to the direction of the Supreme, right?
Well, it's a little bit of both, actually. You need to listen to your own sense of space, your own sense of time, your own sense of like really feeling your own instrument, right? And the instrument, when I say instrument, I'm talking both of the instrument of the soul, the instruments of the soul, but also the instruments of the physical body, because we do live in a physical world. So when we speak spiritual, we cannot separate the spiritual from the physical when it comes into action, right? So we have to be in a full awareness of our entire instrument.
So does it mean that you keep detached, or you actually are not detaching anymore?
You're actually detached, but in the awareness that I have this full instrument, that I, the soul or the spiritual being, have a tool called the physical body that helps me communicate. And because I am right now in action and in communication with the physical world, I need to remain in the awareness of the entire system, the ecosystem I am part of. So I remain detached because I'm not taking things personally, but I am also remain deeply in the awareness of who I am and what this whole instrument is about.
Shanti,
The
sorry.
detachment is, sorry, the detachment is 24/7, right?
The detachment is 24/7, but it's a loving detachment.
Got you.
Right? Yeah, it's a loving detachment. It's not a detachment of get away from me. It's actually a detachment from I'm not affected by the external world because I am stable within myself.
Shanti,
Yes, please.
sorry to interject here, but it's time for our evening meditation.
Yes.
I'd like to move towards our next segment.
Yes.
If that's okay, we can close the workshop. And if you have any questions, and this is for all the participants, you can send an email to us at Los Angeles, our inbox, and we can send it over to Santi Bai, and he can still respond and reply to all your questions. So I'll put the email address of our Los Angeles inbox, and you can send your emails there. All right. Thank you so much, Santi Bai, for this wonderful.
Thank you so much. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for your participation. And I look forward to the next one.
Thank you, Santi.
Shanti.
Thank you.